What's up, my do life and a body you love chicks? Today we are going to talk about the boring basics of fat loss and health because here's the deal. We all want to go into the weeds with all the fine details and nerd out about all these grand topics or look for that one magical thing, this secret sauce, this little formula that we're going to find that is just going to explain why we've struggled for so long, give us the answers, give us the simple solution. And that ends up being a trap. And it is a trap, if I'm being 100% honest, that I have personally fallen into many, many, many times. Okay. So, no judgment, girl. I would rather sit and learn about how to do something than do it. Learning is my procrastination love language, if you will. But when we are not taking care of the basics that we need to take care of and we're trying to nerd out about the minutia of things, we're really doing ourselves a disservice. We are literally making our journey longer and harder by avoiding the basics. Like there is an order of operations when it comes to improving your health, your body composition, losing fat, building muscle, whatever it is. Like you have to learn to walk. No, that's backwards. You have to learn to crawl before you learn to walk, right? And so I want to break down a little bit about these basics. What is this order of operations? And how do you keep yourself from going rogue? How do you know when it's time to nerd out, too? Actually, let's talk about that because there is a time and a place for that. I get super nerdy and really, really detailed and very, very precise with my own health stuff at this point because I'm 10 plus years into this and with some of my clients who start with me that are already more advanced. So there's a lot of things that are detailed that do matter, that do move the needle, especially once you reach a certain level in your fitness or in your health journey. But just because those things are true and important, and I think everybody should eventually get to them, it doesn't mean it's where you need to be. And also, even once you are more advanced in your journey, you are going to have times where lifes or your body throws you a curveball or something happens and you get off track and you know what you do? You don't start in the nitty-gritty details. You go back to the basics. I can't tell you how many times I've had to pull myself back to the basics. And here's where this trips people up. Once you've already started having some success and you feel as though you're more advanced and then you get tripped up, you're even more shameful about it. And you feel like you're resistant to going back to the basics. Like when I have to pull my clients back to the basics when they've already been so far, they're like, I should already have this by now. And I'm like, well, you do, but your brain just did what brains do. And we go back to the basics and you pick them up way fast and you just repeat the process over again. That's literally what growth and change looks like. It's like you have to meet yourself where you're at. This is why when people start and keep it off, I assess what do you already do? What does your day look like? I can get a lot of information by somebody just ranting to me what their typical day looks like. I can see, do you already make meals at home? That is a skill set that you need to be healthy. You have to know how to make food at home, or you have to have the money to have a personal chef. And if you do, I am so here for that. I actually had one client who was like, she was like, I feel guilty that I have this, but I have somebody who cooks our meals. And I was like, girl, there's no shame in that. I am so here for that. But that's not the reality for most of us. This doesn't mean you can never eat out. I eat out all the time. If you follow me on social media, you will see pictures of me in restaurants smashing insane amounts of food, including dessert, including pasta with a glass of wine. I'm not saying you can never eat out, but if every single one of your meals comes from the drive-through right now and you're Googling how much protein do I need, we're not there. It doesn't matter how many calories or how much protein you need if you're not currently feeding yourself healthy food in the first place. Because if you don't know how to cook food, which by the way, it does not need to be gourmet, all right? It's just got to get the job done. Don't try to be perfect with this. You're not a Michelin star chef. And I promise you can whip up something just as good in your own kitchen as McDonald's once your taste buds acclimate to whole food. That was me. Can you tell the very specific example? I loved my filet of fish, okay? But until you can actually cook food in your own kitchen, then there's no even any point in meal planning, right? And then once you've cooked a few meals in your kitchen and you're like, "Oh, okay, I can do this." Okay, cool. Now we can come up with like meal planning, and it doesn't need to be detailed meal planning. I don't mean like you're a freaking dietitian. I just mean you're planning a menu. What am I going to make this week? And then when you can stick to a menu, okay, you might not even need macros yet. We might be able to balance out your plate without you having to count a thing. I can get like a good 20 or 30 pounds off of women usually without them ever even having to look at calories or protein. It's just like, here's how we're going to eat, and here's the other puzzle pieces, and then it all just works, right? But you get lean enough that you get to the point where, okay, we do have to care about the quantity of food and the calories and the protein and the carbs and the fat, and it all starts to matter. At a certain point, it does matter. But if you can't do the basics, you can't handle those pieces yet. Okay, so the same thing is true about working out. Do you eventually need to have things very strategically programmed and dialed in? Yes, you do. I have my clients, any of them that are willing and able, get body scans so I can see how much muscle do you have, how much fat do you have. We're tracking this, okay? I have seen women who are working out and they're losing muscle. So if we think programming doesn't matter and we think that nutrition dialed in doesn't matter, that is wrong. It does matter. However, it matters when it matters. In the beginning, it doesn't. I know all of this sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but I'm not, because here's the thing. If you're very sedentary right now, maybe you used to work out, you used to be very athletic, but now you have a desk job and you just sit on your butt all day and then you run kids around to sports. So you're in your car driving kids around and you haven't worked out in years. Or maybe you are like me and you've literally never been somebody who works out. That was the spot that I was coming from. A couple years of cheerleading in high school until that was interrupting like all the keg stands I wanted to be doing. Like, I don't have time for cheerleading. Like, no, I had no fitness background. Okay. So if you're sedentary, your programming doesn't matter. You're Googling what's the best way to work out? What's the best workout to burn belly fat? Is Pilates enough? Is yoga enough? Do I need to do strength training? Meh, 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 meh. It literally doesn't matter. You get off your couch and you move. Go on a walk. In the beginning, it's I need to build the habit of moving my body, of allocating this time. And some of you are going to struggle with that because there's other mindset issues that go into that. I work with my clients with that a lot. Not feeling guilty, prioritizing themselves. How do we actually fit this into your calendar? All of those things have to be dealt with, right? But now you're moving. Okay, great. Then there's a time and a place for like, okay, we need strength training. We need it to look a specific way. We need cardio and we need that to look a specific way. When you're new, it doesn't matter. Get your heart rate up and move, doing literally anything. But now I have other clients who have been working out for a really long time. All right. Now they're stuck. Why? Well, we have to figure that out. This is where I want to nerd out with them about nervous system regulation. And I'm having them monitor their heart rate variability and sending me those metrics so I can see how are we recovering? Do we need more HIIT training? Do we need to back off of HIIT training? Do we need more zone 2 cardio? How many days a week should we be working out? What is your sleep? What is your stress? Blah, blah, blah. There is a time and a place for precision fitness. And I freaking love doing that. If that's where you're at, holler at your girl. I got you. But here's what I'm going to tell you. 80% of women don't need that. But we get stuck on these rabbit holes online. Like, oh, maybe that's why I'm stuck. Maybe I need to be measuring my heart rate variability, or I need to be doing this other kind of workout. This lady on YouTube said I have to be doing videos like this. And it's like, but you're currently not working out at all. So, like, none of that matters. It's just let's establish the habit. And like all these trackable or all these wearables and trackable things for fitness, like those are cool. I think baseline, yes, get a step counter. Everybody should have a step counter on their wrist because otherwise you don't know how much you're moving. And most women, especially if they have a day job, grossly overestimate how much they're moving. This was a huge shock to me when I left emergency medicine and opened a business where I sat on my butt. And I was like, oh, I used to easily get 15,000 steps every day. Like, I was like, why do people even have to focus on this? That's crazy to me. And then I got my own little desk job from home. And it was like, oh, I can easily get 1,500 instead of 15,000. Wow. Wow. Okay. So some wearables are helpful, but people really get in the weeds with this. Like, oh no, it said this about my sleep score and it said this about my HRV. And like, do I need to be monitoring my blood sugar all the time? And blah, blah, blah. Oh, girl, I'm so here for that when you're ready. Okay. But everybody doesn't need those things. We all need to start with the basics. And I don't even care how much knowledge you have. If you have your freaking PhD in some sort of biochemistry thing or exercise physiology or whatever it is that you have, don't care. Because if you're not implementing the basics, all of that advanced knowledge is for naught. It does not matter. Every human being on this planet has some basic requirements, okay? You need to feed yourself. If you're not feeding yourself regularly throughout the day, that is priority number one. You need to be fueling your body, girlfriend. And then you need to be moving your body. If you don't move it, you lose it. It happens at a rapid rate. I cannot overemphasize the importance of regular scheduled exercise and movement. Like it's crucial, it's non-negotiable. If you want to be any sort of healthy, diet alone will not get you there. Exercise is the number one underutilized tool for you to be lean, but also to live a long time. And if you're like, well, I don't really care how long I live, which I know that sounds harsh, but like a lot of people tell me that. They're like, well, whatever, I'll die when I die. Here's the thing that people don't realize though. The worst thing that happens to you isn't that you die. And I hate to be really like dark and sinister right now, but this, I'm not trying to like scare you, but I sort of am because it's true. Like, I'm not exaggerating this, but like the worst thing that happens to you is not death. Okay. It's that you are really, really, really out of shape and you can't carry your own groceries and you can't walk up a flight of stairs and you can't play with your grandkids. And that's like best case scenario of aging is that you're just like the unfit grandma who doesn't have the energy to keep up and you can't go play at the park with your kids, right? And so like that's one level. But then the next level is like, okay, so you have heart disease, a stroke, dementia, like you physically can no longer take care of yourself. You have to go into a nursing home. You are dependent on other people to take care of you. And you think that that just happens to people for like 6 months. Let me tell you, sometimes it's multiple decades of having to depend on other people to take care of you. And so to me, I don't actually care about my number of years on this planet. I care what those years are going to look like. And if all we're ever focused on is gimmicky ways to lose weight, you are not going to have that longevity. You cannot have that longevity without exercise. Hard stop, period. End of story. Okay. I will come off of my soapbox now about why you need to be exercising and why it needs to be appropriate for whatever your body needs right now. But then you also need sleep, right? Like all of this falls apart if you don't sleep. If you don't sleep, your body can't recover from the workouts. If you don't sleep, you have very poor impulse control. Being tired is like being drunk. So you're like, I just want a Snickers bar. It also makes you crave sugar more, and your body processes sugar very, very poorly without sleep. So if we're talking about metabolic health, not like how fast is your metabolism running, but how efficiently is your body utilizing fuel, not getting sleep, no bueno. Okay. Like that's putting your metabolism in the trash. And then stress management, social, being social, socialization, having hobbies, things like that. So there's a lot of things that go into being healthy and fit and strong and keeping your wits about you and all of these things that we all want. I know everybody wants that, right? We focus on whatever is causing us the most misery in the moment. And for women who are unhappy in their bodies, what that is usually how we look, how our clothes fit. Sometimes it's like pain, aches, we've put on some weight, we haven't been moving a lot, our knees hurt, our hips hurt, and then that can sometimes supersede the visual appearance. But if we're being honest, and like I've talked to thousands and thousands of women at this point about their weight loss journeys, even when we say, I want health, I want fitness, I want to be able-bodied when I get older. But the thing that's driving us immediately in the moment is oftentimes the way that our body looks. And so we're focused on weight loss. And so we focus on dieting and restriction and tearing our body down. But what I'm here to tell you is if you put the basics in place and you do it in the right way, you will lose weight actually more effective than you do when you're dieting. You'll sustain it way longer, and it doesn't have to be strict, miserable, and you need to not overcomplicate it. Like sometimes you need to be grounded off of social media and the internet, which is ironic because you probably found this either on a podcast app or social media. But like most women know what the basics are, right? It's not that we don't know what to do, it's that we have a hard time implementing it into our life. And I get that. I hear you. I was a nurse who was struggling. It wasn't because I didn't know what some of these basics were, but it's hard to do when you're busy and your energy is already low. And then God love you if you're already approaching menopause. And so your hormones are all over the place and it's making it hard to concentrate. When it's hard to concentrate and focus, it's hard to plan a meal, right? When you're exhausted, it's hard to want to get off of the couch and do the workouts. And so if you need help implementing any of this, holler at your girl. This is literally the point of the Keep It Off Academy. It's not to give you some grandiose plan that's so detailed you can't follow it and it has 27 million steps. It's like, nope, we're going to take the basics of what you probably already know you should be doing and we're going to implement it into your real life and do it in a proper order of operations. Now, if you are to the point where you're like, no, I'm capped, girl. My food is been on point for years. My workouts are aggressive. I do strength training. I do HIIT. I do all these things and I'm plateaued. And since I hit menopause, nothing will work. Nothing will move the needle. Okay, we do need precision for you. We absolutely need to nerd out about the right things and not chase red herrings. But for 80% of women who are hearing this, it's the basics and it's the basics over and over and over. And even when you start nerding out, when I'm talking about nerding out, you guys, like I'm only 43 years old. We're already doing like CCTAs to see if I have like clogging in my arteries because I've had high cholesterol since I was a teenager. And like I get detailed with my doctors on like what tests I want. Then I get very, very detailed with my workouts. I am pushing hard right now. And I know me, and I will push so hard that I will burn out. And I had a bigger capacity when I was not perimenopausal, but my body burns out faster now, and I know that about myself. So I'm also monitoring my heart rate variability, my resting heart rate, my recovery scores, so that I know when I can push and when I need to back off. I'm checking my in-body scans so I know, oof, I wasn't hitting the glutes as hard as I thought that I was, and I need to focus there. So yes, I get very, very, very detailed for myself and for people who are ready for that level. But even for me, when I get off track, you know what I do? I go back to the basics. I go back to the basics. Every single person, no matter how advanced, needs the basics. And until those basics are in place, ground yourself off of the internet. I'm going to give you some specific examples, okay? So I will have women who come to me, and by the way, if you've thought these things, this is like not me judging you. I have done all of this myself. My clients do this, my best friends do this, my husband does this. Very, very, very intelligent people. This has nothing to do with intelligence whatsoever, right? But like I'll have a chick who comes to me who's like, okay, Nikki, I think that we need to work on my cortisol. And I'm like, well, that's probably true, but tell me why and what you have in mind. What things are we trying? And it's really all about some like supplement that they think that they need because they just saw this thing online and it's equating all of these symptoms to them having high cortisol. And I'm like, all right, so yeah, you have this crash in the afternoon. That can absolutely be from cortisol and it can be from stress. But hey, let's look at food logs for the past few days. And it's like, oh, you caffeinated all day because you weren't hungry, allegedly, and you were busy. And so, really, you just wanted to work and you got no food. And then you finally ate at 1 o'clock. And then your body crashed at 2 o'clock. And sure, that might have something to do with cortisol, but like the solution isn't the supplement. The solution is okay, you're not allowed to grab a second cup of coffee until you've had your breakfast because what your body wants is fuel. You're squeezing an empty tank with caffeine when your body needs actual nutrition. Or like somebody else will come to me and be like, oh, I think that I got to do this parasite cleanse because I have all of these symptoms and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, maybe you do have liver flukes. I'm not saying you don't. You could find out. You could have your actual medical doctor order an ova and parasite on you and you could poop in a cup. And then you would know if you have those or not. But all the symptoms that you just told me about the parasite also can be from being sedentary, which you have not started working out yet, even though we've been talking about it for 3 months. And the fact that you eat Doritos every night at midnight and your protein intake is usually about 75 grams instead of 130. I'm making up numbers. This does not mean this should be your numbers, right? And your fiber intake is like 3 grams of fiber, and any fiber that you do get is from like a high fiber tortilla shell. It's like not fruits and veggies. And so it's like, so do we have a parasite issue, or are we still ignoring the basics and looking for something else to chase? Fix the food, fix the movement, fix the sleep, fix the stress. That's a big enough undertaking. Yes, it's basic, but there's a whole lot that goes into each one of these categories, and implementing them in your real life isn't easy. It's simple things, but it's not, change is never easy, right? So, but it's like we need to focus on these basics. If we're not doing the basics, we have no business chasing after all of these other random things. But I get it because it is fun, right? It's fun hearing new information, especially when it's something that explains some symptoms that we're having. We're like, oh my gosh, maybe that's it. And that's my solution. And every time you think that, I want you to pull back and go, okay, that could be true. And I'm going to keep that in mind. But what else could be true? And would any of those symptoms get better if I handled my basics? Now, I am not telling you to ignore real symptoms. If you have real symptoms, you need to go talk to your medical doctor. None of this is medical advice, blah, 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 blah. All the things about don't be a jerk and sue me. Okay. This is not medical advice. There are some symptoms you need to talk to your doctor about, but just in general, like when you see a reel pop up and it gives you like 27 symptoms that basically every single woman in midlife feels because we are all overworked, undernourished, but overfed, right? We don't have enough vitamins and minerals, but we got way too many calories. We're not moving our bodies in an appropriate way. We're either going too hard or we're not working out at all. We're stressed out because we're the glue that's holding everything together for every single human in our orbit, right? And then we wonder why we feel overwhelmed, ADD, all the things. But then this reel pops up on your feed and it's like, oh, well, all of these things is just undiagnosed ADD in midlife, or this is your hormones, or this means your testosterone is low. And it's like, it's almost like watching a drug commercial, right? Where it's like all these crazy side effects, except for it's the opposite. It's like a catch-all for all these symptoms that we have. And depending on what's trending at the time, it will explain all the symptoms. Have you guys ever noticed that? So what used to be, let's say 10 or 15 years ago, everything was blamed on candida. So then it was the anti-candida diet push. And then look, those same symptoms are the things that people are like cortisol, parasites, what everybody takes these same symptoms of us having a crappy lifestyle and then finds a thing to blame it on that gets women trapped into chasing all of these red herrings. And I'm not saying that none of those things are ever true. Sometimes they are. I have some weird medical autoimmune stuff. Okay, I have a histamine problem. I actually do legitimately have some of these things. So I get it. And there is a time and a place for it. But it doesn't even matter. Regardless of if you actually did have any of those things going on, you still gotta handle the basics. All right, so I think that we've beat this up. But fight the urge to jump down a million rabbit holes and chase a bunch of red herrings if you know that you need to be implementing the basics. And then when you are more advanced and you're ready to be precise, do that in a really strategic way too. Not in a way where you're stressing yourself out. And again, not in a way where you're chasing after red herrings. You evaluate what are the things that are important to me as I age? What are the things that are important to me for my health and my body composition goals right now? And then what are the things that I need to test and track and measure? And what is the best strategy to get there? Strategy is always king. Not trying harder, certainly not random. We don't need to be strict. We need to be strategic. And strategic is never random. And it always starts with the basics.